Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Matt Lateplo, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you have joined us for our next live presentation from Comstock Inc. Please note you can submit questions in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Corrado de Gasperis, Director, Executive Chairman, and CEO of Comstock Inc., which trades on the New York Stock Exchange American Exchange under the symbol LODE. Welcome, Corrado.
Thanks, Matt, and thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to overview Comstock today. Comstock has got a portfolio of a tremendous number of groundbreaking businesses, and I'd like to take you through a nice summary of each one of those today. As part of that conversation, I will make some forward-looking statements. Please take care as to those forward-looking statements. The company's basically got three major lines of business. You'll hear us talking about sustainable mining. You'll hear us talk about critical metal recycling, and you also hear us talk about low carbon fuels. In addition to that, we have a tremendous portfolio of other investments, substantially all of them critical, and a few of them being monetized this year for almost $60 million of cash proceeds. It's a remarkable number given that our market cap today is about 55 million. Let me start with the mining line of business. We have, we have laid out the organization such that these three lines of business, Comstock Mining, 100% owned, Comstock Metals, 100% owned, Comstock Fuels, 100% owned, is supported by the entire enterprise. And one of the differentiating factors of how we operate our businesses is that the corporation, the company's corporate group, if you will, provides all the supporting activities that ensure that the presidents of each business, David Winsness for Comstock Fuels, Fortunato Lamagna for Comstock Metals, essentially get up in the morning fully dedicated to commercializing their business, go to bed at night thinking the same exact thing, and do it all over again, while not having to worry about some of the I guess I would say more mundane corporate activities like financial accounting, reporting, SEC filings, even the hiring and deploying of people. So we have a tremendous advantage in having fully dedicated business teams that really spend 100% of their time developing and commercializing their businesses with an absolutely minimal amount of distraction. And in addition to that, these teams have a tremendous amount of experience. David Winsness has dedicated his life, along with Kevin Chrysler, in developing low carbon fuels, have successfully developed technology and commercialized it across the corn ethanol industry, for example, where they created an ability to extract corn oil as a byproduct to the ethanol production process, resulting in billions of dollars of revenue for that industry at a critical juncture. Fortunato has spent multiple decades, over 3 decades, building and commercializing material production facilities. You'll hear that we're about to commission our first one next month, which is just a few weeks away. But our entire team has experience depth specific to the businesses that they're enabling, and a team with them dedicated to commercializing those businesses. So you'll hear also that all 3 of our lines of businesses are commercializing as we speak. And as I mentioned, we have a portfolio of strategic investments, which I'll talk about last, that complement all of what we're about to talk about. Let me start with Comstock Mining. 100% owned Comstock Mining has consolidated 12 square miles, over 10,000 acres of mineral properties in northern Nevada, one of the best, if not the best, mining jurisdictions in the world, with technical reports recently published that demonstrate almost 1 million ounces of gold resource in the measured, indicated, and inferred category. Substantial majority of those ounces are measured and indicated in the highest category, and over 8 million ounces of silver resources also measured, indicated, and inferred categories, with the substantial majority being in the highest categories. What's remarkable is that we not only have consolidated 12 square miles of contiguous properties with 6 miles of known continuous mineral trend, where the top 2 miles of that trend produced over 8 million ounces of gold and almost 200 million ounces of silver. Those are staggering numbers. And I want to make sure I repeat them, that I'm not saying this mistakenly. This was one of, if not the richest precious metal districts in the country and in the world at the time. And we've consolidated the entirety of the district, and in literally a geographic area of less than 10% have already quantified almost 1 million ounces of gold and over 8 million ounces of silver. However, the industry has a bottleneck, and you'll find a common theme in the businesses that we've selected and the businesses that we're commercializing, is that we're identifying a major problem, if not the major problem, in that industry. And we're addressing it with our differentiated technology. And in the case of mineral discovery and mineral exploration, that is the bottleneck. The first 10 years that I was here, we were discovering only one more than 1 million ounce new deposit per annum as an industry. That compares to the prior 10 years, where we were discovering 6 to 8 new million ounce discoveries. Shockingly, if you look at just the last 5-6 years, I'm not aware of any greater than million ounce new discovery. So the industry's hit a bottleneck, right? Its ability to discover materially new deposits. And so what we've done is we've invested in the technology that will allow us to have much more powerful analytics, much more powerful predictive techniques for discovering new minerals. I mean, it's in our opinion, it's mathematically impossible that the old timers, using rudimentary techniques, discovered all the bonanzas. There were 33 bonanzas discovered on the Comstock alone in the late 1800s. However, we know for a fact that they left a tremendous amount of high-grade minerals behind based on their techniques. However, we've built a model, and we are now enhancing that model in collaboration with our strategic investee, Quantum Generative Materials, or GenMat, to create a digital twin, to create a machine learning model, artificial intelligence impact, if you will. And then, just in November, GenMat launched one of the most powerful hyperspectral imagers into orbit on their own fully owned and operated satellite, GenMat-1. And we are now gearing up to start scanning the district and add to our existing geostatistical models with 150 years worth of historical, geological, and mining data to create a new era of predictable algorithms, a new era of predictive artificial intelligence to enhance the mineral discovery. What we expect is that we will be able to enhance our model, expand our model, and increase our ability to discover minerals right here on the Comstock, using the Comstock as the base case. That'll have immediate and direct value to us, of course, but more importantly, this functionality, this capability, this capacity can be taken together with GenMat to the broader industry, which is struggling mightily for new mineral discovery. So we already have 12 square miles of assets. We already have over 1 million ounces in gold equivalent terms of gold in the ground. We feel like we're just scratching the surface. We feel like we have a tremendous amount of data that makes this probable, that makes this predictable, that makes this not speculative. Extending in from our precious metal competencies, we've also launched Comstock Metals. Comstock Metals is recycling metal products, electrification products, if you will, starting with solar panels. This is a little different and a little unusual, but we built a pilot that could crush, condition, and separate metals. We were originally targeting batteries. However, we incorporated some additional technologies and decided that the bigger market, the stronger market, the safer market, the faster market was in photovoltaics. What does that mean? It means that solar panels have been deployed across the country, but in particular in the southwest region of the United States, Arizona, Nevada, California, in over the last 15 to 20 years. These panels were supposed to last at least 20 to 25 years, but evidence is showing that they're barely lasting 12, 13, 14, and there were nearly 100,000 tons of material that came out of the market last year, taking a lot of people by surprise. Substantially all of those are being discarded and going into landfills. They have the potential to release toxic materials into landfills. It's a very, very bad equation. California recognizes early and has made it illegal to send these panels into landfills. And so we believe that the California-Arizona region is the perfect location to be receiving these. What is the benefit of this model to us? What we love the most about it is that we're avoiding these materials going into landfills. We are protecting the environment. We are enabling a more healthy stewardship. However, we're also getting paid upfront with tipping fees, and we're building the capacity to take in this region all of the solar panels to us. Stunningly, 100,000 tons came out last year. Maybe more surprising to people is that number is going to be 1 million tons by 2030, projected to be 1 million tons of end-of-life panels coming out of the market by 2030. We're looking to put industry-scale facilities in northern Nevada, southern Arizona, southern Arizona, literally lining the California border to take all the materials coming from Nevada and Arizona, as well as all the materials coming from California. So we're really excited about this business because we're one permit away. We're literally 2 weeks away from getting the final permitting regime completed, commissioning the facility in February, operating it in March, and then literally deploying 3 or 4 of these facilities over the next 2 to 3 years. Extremely exciting. We believe that we're the only industry scale technology operating experienced party, coming into this market. So we're set to go. The tipping fees that come up front is the substantial majority of the revenues. There is some recovery of the metals, but the operating costs are a fraction of a fraction, and it's incredibly robust economics. Lastly, I'd like to just touch on our low carbon fuels business. There's a remarkable breakthrough here, and once again, the bottleneck is what we're addressing. There's almost 230 billion gallons of fuel burned for transportation alone in the United States every year. The renewable industry has been incented to produce 16 billion gallons, but it's been unable to do that. It's trying to. It produced 3 billion gallons last year in the US alone, and it's doubling its capacity to 6 billion gallons in the next 24 months. The number one constraint that's slowing that process down is affordable feedstock, available feedstock. And so our solution breaks that bottleneck because we can take woody biomass, waste dead wood from where? From forestry residuals, from lumber yard residuals, from pulp and paper mill residuals, waste wood in abundance from across the country, and convert it into over 100 gallons of gasoline equivalent fuels per dry ton. That number is staggering in context because industry norms typically are about 45 or 50 gallons per dry ton. Our claim to fame is that we're able to use the cellulose, about 50% of the wood that we're sourcing and making ethanol that can also be turned into jet fuel, sustainable aviation fuel. But we can also take the other half of the wood, which is primarily lignin, and convert that into what we call bioleum. We're striving to have a carbon neutral equivalent to petroleum. And what can we do with bioleum? We can create a bioleum oil that can blend 1-for-1 with vegetable oils. Vegetable oils are the feedstock that are driving the 3 billion gallons of today's market in the US alone. By us being able to blend 1-to-1, we can enable that industry to double their capacity. But there's enough wood to go well beyond those numbers. And more exciting to us is when you look at the carbon intensity score for petroleum, which of course is 100, it's the index, it's the offender, and you compare it to corn ethanol, which has a score of 70, 30% reduction, or soybean oil, which has a score of 55, 45% reduction. These are meaningful numbers, but when you compare them to ours, 85% reductions, it's staggering. You have a scenario where you can enable an abundance of feedstock at a lower cost, but with a much more impactful carbon score, which means higher revenues. So for example, corn ethanol today with a score of 70 could bring in, $3+ per gallon. Our score would allow us to accrue 5.5, maybe almost $6 per gallon. So you get higher revenue, lower cost, available feedstock. We are right now commercializing this business. We announced our first agreement in December. We're engaged, even though I'm using US numbers to make a point, we're engaged all over the world, from Europe to North America to South America, with customers wanting to adopt these technologies and adopt these solutions. And we will be announcing more agreements, as we go. Lastly, I just want to say we have 4 strategic investments. We literally have, equity positions or equity-like positions in all 4 of these companies. GenMat is the company that I mentioned that has developed a physics-based artificial intelligence, of which, one of the most immediate applications for us is the use of their AI and their hyperspectral imager to increase the amount of data and the amount of analysis and the amount of prediction that we can make towards the development of our gold and silver resources. We just announced an investment in RenFuel, whose technology has enabled us, and we have adopted and incorporated into our solution to create these bioleum oils today, and provide that solution to our customers today. We also have investments in Green Li-ion, which is related to battery metal recycling, and in real estate that we had accumulated over time here in Northern Nevada that we're monetizing. These last 2 investments are the ones that I mentioned previously. The Green Li-ion investment, for us was $2 million about 3 years ago. We sold about 800,000 of that last summer, and the value of the remaining stock is still nearly 20 million. Our real estate is valued closer to 40 million. So we're looking to monetize these two assets, for our funding for this year. And we're expecting both to occur this year. So I will pause at that 19-minute mark, if that's okay, and turn to the questions. So the first question is, can you discuss your capital position? Do you have an active buyback program in place? So our capital position is, we have about $4 million of cash on hand. We have 115 million common shares outstanding. We have a very clean balance sheet. We've taken great pains to maintain a clean balance sheet. And the only amount of debt obligations that we have have only one covenant, which is when we sell the assets, the $60 million of assets, which I talked about, we'd be required to pay down about $9 million worth of promissory notes. So very stable, very safe, balance sheet. The question was, do we have a buyback program in place? Like, we are growing these technologies. We are commercializing three major businesses, and we are investing in those businesses. Each one of these businesses have dramatic technological differentiation. Fuels with enabling the growth of the entire industry, which is bottlenecked by feedstock. Metals, which no one is really sitting in a position to renew and recycle these critical metals. Starting with solar panels, and with mining, the exploration bottleneck of the industry. I mean, you look across the industry, gold and silver resources are being depleted annually by all the majors. No one is discovering and adding to those resources, and we need to expand our existing valuable asset position to be further. So we don't have any notion of buying back our stock at the time. More than anything, we want to monetize these existing assets and use that to fund the growth of these extraordinary businesses. The next question is, what is the value of Comstock strategic investments? So we have four of them, and if you look at the investment in Sierra Springs and the real estate that we have, which are two different things, because we have about 40 million in real estate that I mentioned to you. Very small percentage of that number is reflected on our balance sheet. 40 million is the fair value of that real estate that we have. We also have an investment in the fund that has additional real estates in that same Silver Springs area. So we don't have a current value for that investment, but I would imagine it would be significant in the tens of millions. So that's the real estate. The Green Lion I mentioned, based on their last offering, is valued at about $20 million. In both of those cases, we're looking to monetize those investments as not really having a strategic implication to our future. GenMat, we own over 30%, of GenMat, and GenMat is in this absolutely rarefied artificial intelligence space. Not only is it one of the most hottest markets, from an equity market perspective and a venture capital perspective, but they're physics based. There are very, very few companies that have the science, the technology, and the capabilities that GenMat has already demonstrated that they could have. And so, to the extent GenMat ultimately goes out and raises money with another investor, we're the only investor today. We're the sole mechanism today to get exposure to GenMat and this physics-based artificial intelligence technology. I would imagine you would see a much larger valuation, coming from that company. It's not. I've said it many times. I think we're an incredible company with incredible businesses, incredible people. But what I do know is that we're tremendously undervalued. And as we validate, I think that everyone is looking for us to validate. As we validate through commercial contracts in these fuels markets, people will recognize that our technology is being adopted by industry leaders. People will recognize the value equation that we are bringing into those supply chains, and that will accrue to us. As Comstock Metals commercializes this quarter and starts generating revenues, from the tipping fees that come from the solar panels right up front, and as the financial profile of our first demonstration facility gets established, people will be able to easily project what an industry scale facility will do, and then what multiple industry scale facilities will do. I would say from Comstock's perspective, metals is coming fast and furious, and then GenMat itself not only will help us, in expanding our resources here on the Comstock, but GenMat will start to adopt customers, which, inherently, by definition, are some of the most sophisticated companies, sophisticated enterprises, certainly in the country, which would mean in the world. And that value will start to get established too. So, I don't think there's any fail here we've spent the last 3 years moving these technologies in a very disciplined way from technology readiness 3, technology readiness level 4, TRL 5, TRL 6, TRL 7s now as we're moving in with fuels. And as we've explained in our former announcements, TRL 6 is magic. It's when you have technological and economic feasibility demonstrated. And TRL 7 is scaling that for profit. So I've said a few times, we didn't intend that all three businesses would be getting to the finish line at about the same time. That's how it worked out. But 2024 is going to be meaningful in those validations. People will know, right, that our customers are adopting. People will know that we're validating something extraordinary here. And we're anxious. We're not anxious. We're impatient. We're not patient about it. We have a sense of urgency. I don't want anybody to think that, but we're also extremely methodical. So we had a question. Has GenMat made any new hard rock mineral discoveries in Nevada? The answer is no. The satellite was launched in November. Thank God, right? Successfully launched, successfully deployed, successfully established the ground link, so that communications are effective. And now we will begin scanning with first the Comstock district and incorporating that information into our models. But I would say Nevada is absolutely prime, for future discoveries, because 2/3 of the state of Nevada has a cover over it, right? In other words, most of the gold and silver and mineral discoveries in Nevada had some form of visible evidence that you could see. It was visible to the naked eye, and most people believe there's more minerals to be discovered in Nevada than have been discovered to date. I'm one of those people. So it's the prime location, not only to train, right, the predictive algorithms and the AI, but to then test them out in terms of new mineral discoveries. We're very excited about that. So we have about 3 minutes left. Let me just see if I missed any questions. So yeah, one last question that someone said that it seems clear that the near term monetizations are not reflected in our share price. Absolutely. My confidence level in terms of monetizing, the real estate, and in terms of monetizing, the Green Lion, have never been higher. We're getting direct engagement, direct inquiries, into some extent, direct negotiations. So it's happening. We're going to do it properly. There's no fire sale notions here. We're going to maximize the value for our shareholders. We're going to do it as timely as possible. It's going to happen this year, but there's no question it's not reflected in our valuation when you're talking about $60 million of sales that have nothing to do with our forward businesses, and we're sitting on a market cap of 55. So I think as we continue to notch our belts with these achievements, the credibility will just continue to grow and grow. We couldn't be more confident. So I don't see any more questions. I think that's perfect because we're right at about 1 minute, Matt, from our ending time. I think we could wrap it up here.